Hello, everyone. I am Jill McKenna. I am the marketing campaign manager here at Ruby, and I'm so delighted today to be speaking with Jehan Noon, CEO and founder of Noon Dalton. Thank you so much for being here, Jehan.
My pleasure.
Do you mind expounding a little bit upon what Noon Dalton does?
Yeah, we provide really resources for local businesses to scale their company. And my background was I worked for Deloitte Consulting for 10 years doing outsourcing for investment banks. Started a few companies, needed some back office support, and I figured if I could do this for banks, we could do this for I could do this for my company.
Another thing you said that is probably one of the most exciting realizations to come out of all this for me is just for small businesses is the fact that the talent pool now opens up, right? If we're all working remotely, we can now look at other markets for talent and really expand kind of the experiences that we're having on our teams.
So there's different models. So you can go out directly and find someone and hire them, or you can use kind of a third party kind of where they manage in that culture. So that would be kind of us, where we employ them, they're full-time employees, payroll, all that stuff, benefits, all that stuff is taken care of by us. And that's, there's some advantages and disadvantages. Obviously, there's additional costs, but there's more service around there where you have your manager, if you have places to escalate, whereas sometimes we've heard kind of horror stories of people hiring directly in those where the company sends them the computer and then they never hear from them again. So there's risks and rewards, and you kind of get what you pay for. It's definitely going to be cheaper. Our clients are usually 40 to 60% savings than hiring here. But at the same time, there's you can knock out of the park. You can find someone and go direct, and they could be with your company. But I would say it's more on the 1/3 you can get lucky, and 2/3 you're going to go through some trials and tribulations. So I think understanding how do you train virtually. So for ours, process documentation is key. Training and recording, and then having the person that's learning that training create those process documents for them to prove to them, yes, that the client that, hey, I actually understand what was just taught to me. Because when you learn by doing and then teaching someone else, that combination of that really advances the training. There's going to be mistakes. It's not a foolproof method, but at the same time, it gets you so much further down the road. The other thing is having screen sharing sessions. So Zoom, our best practice there is you get on Zoom, the client walks you through step by step on their screen. Everything's being recorded. Then they hand the control over back to us. We go through it because you learn by doing, making those mistakes, clarifying those, and then just incrementally building up. So getting on an 8-hour Zoom training call to go through training, not the best use of anyone's time, because by hour 4 through 8, like the retention is gone. It's really break it up into digestible chunks, make sure they're able to do the activities, report back, review. It's a very iterative approach, but you can spread it out throughout the day where you're not just jam-packed as well. Is kind of what our best practices are to really bring on and onboard virtual staff.
We haven't talked about this previously, but I'm curious, when do you feel like what's the tipping point of when people would want to start researching a company like Noon Dalton to work with? When's the right time for a business?
I think just going through the scenarios of when people reach out. One is they need to scale a team quickly, and they have certain budgets that they need to hit. So for instance, I need 10 customer service agents, or I have a big project coming in that we just take all the heavy lifting off them to say, no problem, let's start out with a kind of a trial. Here's 1 or 2 staff. Let's make sure the proof of concept works, and then boom, we're off to the races. So once we have one or 2 of them solidified, we know what we're doing. The scaling effort is like clockwork. The other things are when a client is struggling with, or when they have new job recs, right? So I always challenge them: do you need to have a person you're paying $100,000 to $150,000 doing activities that are maybe can be done for $9 or $10 an hour. There's a lot of overpaid people. They're not overpaid people. They're people that are very highly paid doing work that they should not be paid to do. They should be really focused on their core activities. And core activities we define as anything you can train someone else to do in less than a week isn't your core activity. You should not be wasting your time on that. So in the quadrant of quick to train and takes up a lot of time, to elevate your local staff, those are things you can push off to other either local, offshore. The cost savings offshore is obviously there, but it's applicable to any person in your organization, even within your own company. And one of the tricks we suggest is going through and saying, asking your staff to look through your outbox for the last 2 weeks, and then identify, are these tasks things that someone else could have done for you if you would have trained them in less than a week to do? And that way you actually see some, because you'll see reports that go out. Did you need to generate that report? Or could you have said, hey, do process or do report 1, send this to so-and-so. So now you're more managing versus actually having to get in and doing those.
I'm laughing because I was a small business owner, and there are just no truer words than realizing that what you're doing is not the most time and cost effective. I'm thinking of small business owners who are so used to, cleaning the bathrooms, doing absolutely everything, and they hit that 5, 6 year point where they're established and they forget that they can stop doing that. It's really important.
Yeah, look at Ruby. We've been using guys since I don't know, almost since we started, and it is knowing that someone can do it better, focus on it, and just be done with it, and know it's going to be done the best it can be is a huge relief. And now you can move on to the next task, next task. If you're busy trying to figure out who's going to answer your phones, or are we losing leads, or those are really big important things. And when you can trust someone, and it allows you to move the ball forward. And that's really how when a new client comes into us, it's not going to be perfect no matter what, but do we move the ball forward, and do we get faster and faster as time goes on? If there's repetitive issues, if there's exceptions all over the place, things that can be leveraged by other people. I say the easiest are the ones you figure out what's easiest to train, but also processes that don't work. Typically, and I think we talked earlier about what are the things that really don't fit, and I would say the hardest would be junior salespeople, because there's so much shadowing, there's so much one-on-one time that you need to bring them up so much that, and if you're not physically there or they're not next to you, it goes all very slow, and there's a lot of burnout because the training just doesn't come there. If you have a very easy sales process, it's not as bad. But if there's anything part of that, and the other one is whenever there's a lot of variability to the activity. So it's not step 1, 2, 3, 4. It's if step 1 happens, do these A, B, C, D. And then if step 1A happens, then that's where you need a lot of experience. It's very hard to train someone else to do. And those are the things that can be done. They just take a lot longer, and it's really not the best use to try to get someone up to speed because of the complicatedness of the activity.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much for all your insights. If people want to find out more about Noon Dalton, where is your website online, and where can they find you?
Yeah, it's pretty easy, www.noondalton.com, and we're working 24/7. So we have our approach is to understand what you're looking to accomplish, and one of our keys are no. We like to say no a lot, because we don't want to go through the hardship of stuff we've already done and no either doesn't work, or if you're not ready for it, it isn't. So for instance, we get a lot of inquiries about outbound sales. So, hey, can you call? There's a lot of, if you're already doing it and you already have a process, no problem. But if you're setting things up for the first time, you're going to know what's a good sales call. Do you have recordings? Do you have leads? Do you have connection rates? Because people are like, oh, I want 300 dials a day. Like, okay, well, how many dials do you do? Oh, we haven't done it yet. Well, then are you using a dialer? How many hangups? How many, like, there's all these things that you have to hash out before you're ready to even remotely think that this is going to be successful. And if you don't have KPIs internally to compare, how are you going to compare someone else externally that doesn't know your business as well? And that's where I really push back business owners and people is they need to roll up their sleeves and do it. And then that way it's a repeatable process to be able to scale and evaluate.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for all your thoughts, advice, and insight. It's truly helpful, I'm sure, for our community and our customers.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, Jehan.